We are Peter and Laurel Olson, and we've been serving at a school called Black Forest Academy, or BFA for short, since 2006. Our connection to Salem is through Laurel's parents, Lauren, aka Pete, and Jan Peterson. And we're here this morning to give you a quick overview of what we do, give an update on the past year, and share some prayer requests as we prepare to head back to Germany. So on the next slide, you'll see a map of where BFA is located. It is less than a half hour from both the French and Swiss borders in the southwest corner of Germany. And on the next slide, you'll see our campus. BFA has students in grades 5 to 12. Our middle school, grades 5 to 8, had 40 students this past year. The high school had 202 students. And of these 202 students, 111 participate in BFA's boarding program, meaning that they come to live in one of our 6 dorms during the school year. This past year, you'll see that our students came from over 45 countries where their parents are serving or where they're working. And a key question for us is, why does a school like Black Forest Academy even exist? And part of the answer is that for missionaries, meeting the educational needs of their children, not to mention their social, emotional, and spiritual needs, can become a significant challenge. This is why BFA exists and why we do what we do. BFA was started and still is primarily a school for missionary kids.
Our second key question this morning is, why does BFA have a boarding program? And the reality is that some missionaries are located in places that do not have a good or even a viable option for their kids to get a good education. And this issue becomes more common as students reach high school age. The local opportunities where they are may not be adequate. Homeschooling gets more difficult with higher level academics. Students struggle with isolation and loneliness, and that's a big one. Students want to be involved in extracurricular activities like sports, music, or drama. Sometimes a host culture for a family might be hostile or unhealthy for that student. And some students need to prepare for the re-entry into college and in their home culture. It's not an easy decision for a family to send their high school student away to a boarding school. And it's not for every student, but sometimes it's the best decision. One set of parents shared that the decision to go to Eastern Europe, to the mission field, was the easy one. But sending their son to BFA as a 9th grader after he was struggling in the national schools and experiencing isolation and loneliness was a much harder decision to make for them as a family. But it was the right one for that student. For some missionaries, a school like BFA can be a key factor in their ability to remain in their field of ministry. BFA is a school, and in theory, students come for an education. However, we know this isn't the whole story. Our students come for sports, music, and drama programs. They come for things like chapel services, small groups, and mentoring programs. And in many cases, they come for social connection, for relationships, which we have a sermon series here that talks about the importance of relationships.
Since last summer, we've been on home ministry assignment in the USA. We wanted to have time to support our family, both our boys and our parents during this year, and that has been possible for us. We've been grateful for our ability to be present with them. After 15 years of living overseas, we don't take that for granted. Our boys are both in university in Alabama, and we've made several trips south to see them. We were able to move our youngest son, Caleb, into the dorm in the fall and then move him back out in May. And this past August, we helped our oldest son, Jonah, settle into an apartment of his own and find a car all in about a week's time. If you remember, we had shared that as a prayer request in the fall at Salem, and that was one that the Lord answered. We also traveled for several months last fall, visiting a couple supporting churches in New York, where we used to live, and supporters scattered around the eastern half of the U.S. Plans for the second half of our year were adjusted when Laurel's dad's battle with cancer intensified, and he entered Solvay Hospice House here in Duluth. We've spent most of our time since Christmas here.
It's almost time for us to return to Germany in the next school year, and we have tickets for July 17th. In terms of our family, it's going to be a different return for us because we go back without any kids. It's a reality check when we put together a new prayer card that didn't include our boys. And the truth is that they're the ones that people are most interested in seeing. And some of them have been bold enough to tell us that when they saw the new card. However, if you'd like to pick up a new card, though it's perhaps not improved, we do have some available at a table that way.
When we return to BFA, I will once again be the math department chair and be teaching high school math and physics. I'm also dusting off my programming skills to be ready to teach a computer science course for the first time. For the past 10 years, Laurel has been an assistant to the head of school, and earlier this year she was asked to switch to an admissions role as the staff person currently running that program, or the admissions department, is leaving at the end of August. This is a critical need for our school, and she agreed to make the switch. The good news is that she's been around long enough to have a good idea of how everything works.
In terms of how the world is doing, we go back during a time when there are a lot of uncertainties. COVID regulations and restrictions have had a significant impact on BFA, and that impact was still felt through much of the last school year. We don't know what the next year will hold and how the German government will respond. The Russia-Ukraine situation is impacting Europe in a huge way, politically, socially, and economically. Rising costs and inflation are not confined to the USA. These are also being felt around the world. Things like global instability, politics, pandemics, economics, these all have a significant impact on the missionary community as well. Please be in prayer for this, at the same time knowing that God accomplishes his purposes despite the obstacles that we might see around us.
On a personal note, Laurel's dad continues in hospice. And one thing that is certainly clear after these past months is that we don't always know or understand God's timelines. The questions of whether we or she will be able to travel on July 17 is a real one to us right now. We're praying that God will make it clear as to what we should do and that we would have peace in making those decisions. We want to say a big thank you, too, to the Salem family for its partnership in our work at BFA and for being such a welcoming place to us during our HMA year. We have been encouraged by the church family here and are excited about what God is doing through all of you. So thank you.